volunteers where the VMF has had an impact on their life and just want to share with you their volunteering experience. So thank you for joining us. We're going to start off with Mark, who's actually now our integration staff member at the VMF. Okay.
Hi everyone, my name is Mark. I'm currently integration staff at the VMF, which basically means I try to introduce mostly the rescued orphans that we have. I try to introduce them into our established trips that we have at the foundation, using the foster mom approach as Josie mentioned in our talk earlier. I'll just go over briefly how I started. In 2010, I was in work one day and I was just really bored, as you are, and I basically just typed into Google volunteering Africa, and actually one of the first things that came up was the Vervet Monkey Foundation. And it took me maybe a week every day. I logged on, had another look at it, I wasn't sure, kept deciding not to do it, and then eventually I just decided, just pay for it, and then you'll have to do it. So I did that. I went out in the summer of 2010 for 4 weeks, and I loved the place. The whole foundation, I loved the area. In Limpopo, it's up in the north side of South Africa, so it's very tropical. Beautiful, beautiful area. Obviously the monkeys, I love the monkeys. I also love the communal living. It's very eco-friendly, communal living lifestyle. There's lots of other people you're living with them 24 hours a day. It's really cool. So I went back home. And straight away I decided that I had to go back. So almost straight away I booked another 6-month stay in 2012. So actually quite a long way away. So I went out for 6 months again, and that's when I started to get involved with the integrations and starting to work with the rescued babies and introducing them into social groups. And then after 6 months I went back again. I was like, that's not long enough, I have to go back again. So I was in work one day and I had a really bad day. I have an office job, it's really boring. And I basically was like, screw this. And I messaged Josie and asked her if she had any staff positions available. And she said, yeah, so I can come out to do the integrations. So I went back out last year, October?
Nearly a year.
Last October, so I've nearly been a staff member for a year now. So at the minute we're basically last baby season, which is December through to March is when we get most of our rescued orphans. Last year we had a record number arrive at the foundation, 27. So it was a lot of hard work getting these monkeys into trips, and we had so many. We're actually still trying to integrate the last monkey, Chief Longhair. We've named him because he has long hair, and so that's what we're working on at the minute. So he's a little bit older, so he doesn't get treated like a baby. So he's the only baby really from this season that won't have a specific foster mom. So he's having to go out into the main enclosure by himself and come back by himself. Whereas usually with the foster moms, so we have the large enclosures, and on the side of the large enclosures there's the smaller cages, introduction cages we call them, where we can let adult females in. If they bond with the baby, they'll eventually carry the baby out into the main trip, and from there on the baby's fine, he's in perfect care. Unfortunately with Chief, he's too big, so he doesn't have a foster mom to carry him out into the main trip. So we have to sit there every day, all day, and just allow him to come in and out as he pleases. And he's a very nervous monkey. He was kept as a pet for 3 or 4 months, so he is quite humanized, which makes it very difficult because he's played with humans. He's more boisterous, more playful, and sometimes he's a bit too playful. As I say, just because he's been handled by humans. So it's taken a long time. And unfortunately, this is the consequences of keeping monkeys as pets. It can become very difficult to introduce them. They have to almost relearn their natural behaviour to join the monkeys again. So it's taken 3 months, and we're still some of the babies go in a matter of days, into the troops, but with Chief it's taken 3 months, and it's a lot of hard work. So we might even be doing it when the next baby season starts in November. I mean, hopefully he'll be out by then, but that's what I'm working on at the minute. Hopefully, eventually he'll decide to stay out in the troop. When he sleeps out in the troop overnight, that's really when he becomes integrated into the troop. So we're just trying to build his confidence slowly, allow him to bond, and the little intro cage is his safe zone, so when he gets scared out in the troop, he runs back in, and it's just doing this every day, letting him go out, play for a while. There's 3 other babies in the troops, 3 other orphans that we had this year, so he's bonded with them quite well. They're very playful, and that's basically what I'm doing at the minute.
Talk about your vegan running.
With what, sir?
Your vegan running.
Oh, the vegan running. Yeah, so I wasn't a vegan the first time I volunteered, but in 2012, when I was there for 6 months, because I'd been eating vegan for so long, I started to look into it more, and I decided that's what I wanted to do. So when I went home, I kept up the vegan diet, and I'm also a runner, and I noticed that my running improved. Not necessarily the times, but recovery, and I got injured a lot less. My recovery times dropped. I just found it so much easier, so much more energy. And when was it? June? This June, there's an event in Limpopo, the Iron Crown Challenge, where you run up to the highest point in the province, the Iron Crown Mountain, and back down again. It's a half marathon. So I turned that into a fundraiser, and I managed to raise £1,000, which went towards the Vervet Forest project. So that £1,000 helps us to get 1 more hectare for eventually our release site. So I managed to get £1,000, worked really well, and yeah, that's me. that's where I'm at now.
Does anyone have any questions for Mark?
Oh, any questions? No, perfect.
Okay, then we have Hilda. Hilda has been at the Vervet Monkey Foundation a number of different times and for a few years, a few months each time. So she's going to tell her story.
Yeah, my story starts in 2006. I've been I've always loved South Africa, and I was there I've been traveling quite a lot when I was young, and I loved South Africa just to go on holidays. But then at some point I thought well, why just spend my money on touristical things? Why not do something worthwhile? And so I started looking at the internet like Mark did, trying to find places that were trustworthy, because you never know what organizations you might find that maybe take your money but don't pick you up or whatever. But the Vervet Monkey Foundation I found in different travel organizations promoting. And so I thought, well, maybe that's something for me. I got in contact with the VMF saying okay, I'm 42 at this stage. I'm 42. Probably I'm maybe too old to volunteer, but I really want to do something with my life before I get too old. And so I got an email back saying no, we even have volunteers 75 years old, so 42 is still really a nice age to come over. So that's when I decided to go. Went there in October 2006 for the first time for 3 weeks, and I can remember that Josie at that time picked me up, and we went. It was not even a cabin village we had at that time. It was still in tents we were sleeping. She took me to my tent, and then next to tent village at that time it's probably still the cage, where the babies were kept at that time. And she took me to the baby cage, and there was this one little monkey who immediately started talking to me. And Josie said well, that's quite strange, because it's not obvious that they would start talking to a stranger. But maybe because I was Flemish and she came from an Afrikaans family, that she might have recognized sounds or something. But she went completely crazy the first day that she saw me. So Josie said probably normally the volunteers have to stay outside for a few days, but I might take you in already tomorrow in the cage and see how she is, because Felix, little girl, was quite high ranked in the troop. So the next day she actually took me in, and this little monkey jumped on my head and kind of never left me anymore in the 3 weeks. And I can remember I might cry now, I don't know. The first, that evening, I actually called my mother and I was like crying like a baby. And she said, "Oh my God, what's happened? Isn't the place good or what? Because you can always come home." And I said, no, it's really, really nice because I don't know what I feel, but I've never been married, I've never had children. And I think this little girl actually brought like mother feelings in me. So I stayed for 3 weeks, which was great. Cried my eyes out when I had to leave. Already on the bus to Joburg, I was thinking like, okay, I have to go back to see if Felix would still recognize me if I went back after a few months. So and I already started planning my next trips, which was then in April. For 3 months I took my holidays from work and then 2 extra months unpaid. Went back and actually Felix went crazy again, so she still recognized me. I spent a lot of times with the babies who were over a year old at that time. And then something really bad happened because I went home, like on the bus I was thinking again like I have to come back for more. And when I get home the day after, I think I got an email from Jay-Z with in subject saying "your girl," and she strangled herself in the cage. And sorry, we don't know if she actually got strangled with playing or with fighting. But then I thought like, okay, this is it, I can't go back. Cried for weeks at home and nobody really understood what happened. But then a bit later I really thought like, okay, it was Felix, she touched my heart and I have to go back for others to help. So I took a year off in 2008, went back for the whole year. We had loads of ups and downs that year, but we managed to get through it. And then I went back home, back to work, but after a year being in the bush and working with monkeys and just going back to an office job. Mark, you know as well, it's not fun. No. So after a couple of weeks I resigned, got my 3-year visa and went back to South Africa. I came back June, I think 2009, but then unfortunately in December 2010 I broke my ankle, both sides, had to go back home. And since then I've been back to South Africa, but also visiting other sanctuaries to see how they work. And now we had a couple of problems at home, so since 2014 I haven't been in South Africa again, but at the end of the year I'll surely be going back to spend time again with the monkeys, because I've always said if you either love South Africa or you hate Africa in whole. You either love it or you hate it. If you love it and the monkeys even touch your heart, you won't. There's nothing else that can replace that nice experience, I think. So I can recommend it to everybody to go. That's,
Okay, Steph's going to just give you a bit of a different overview about volunteering as well.
Yeah. Just a month.
Okay, now Hilda got crying. So I'm a bit nervous, so bear with me. I was there the first time in 2013. I was 40 years old and I had like a huge midlife crisis. I quit my job, I was sick of everything, and I always wanted to do volunteer work for many years, but you know, you're in this job and you're kind of stuck and it just doesn't happen. So then I quit my job and I went for a month, and it changed me. That's all I can say. I mean, before I was there, I didn't think much about animal abuse or anything. I always loved animals, but that was it. And then while I was there, you know, it changed me. It changed everything. And just the way how they work there with the monkeys. And I have the biggest respect for Josie and Dave, and I've told them many times. And they just do everything for the animals there. And you know, it's
it's over 500 monkeys already, right? That are there. So it's their life. It's their life. So and also when I was there, it's kind of back to basic, because you sleep in these cabins. There's no electricity, and you have like an outdoor shower, but it's hot anyway. At least when I was there. So I was there twice when it was warm. So and then just it's like a bit in the middle of nowhere, and so peaceful and quiet, and you get to know all these monkeys and the stories behind it, and it really touched me. And I was there for a month, and then the other year I went back, because the first time I missed my boyfriend so much, like a week. That was especially one day I was crying the whole day. I want to go home, I miss my boyfriend. And then Josie comforted me the whole day, and then by the end of the month I didn't want to leave. I just wanted to stay, you know. And then next year I went back, and I didn't miss anyone then. I was just enjoying my month there. And so I can say to everyone, if you think about going there or doing some volunteer work, just go there. I mean, there's no better place to do it than there. And also, there's a lot of other things that you can do while you're there. I mean, it's kind of big, but you know, these are, of course, you have pictures from the VMF. But you can always, everyone has some days off, and you can go to Kruger Park if you want. You know, we went there for 3 days, slept there 2 nights in the park, so it's amazing. There's Glide River Canyon, it's beautiful with lots of waterfalls. There's a huge baobab tree with a bar inside, perfect. It's, what else? There's so many things there. We went to the river, swim by the river. I mean, in the evening there's a bonfire, you have a beer at the bonfire, talk about the day. Yeah, it changed me, and I'm so happy I went there. I think I will be back. So yeah, that's kind of my story. So hope you like it.
Share with you a personal story from my side as well. As you all know, I came out to the volunteer. Well, you may not know. I arrived in 2005 as a volunteer. But what I want to share with you is something else. I've had a chronic illness called fibromyalgia for 10 years. I suffered with severe chronic pain, muscle fatigue. There was 1 year whilst I was at the foundation at the sanctuary that I couldn't actually walk around, which really upset me, because I was trying to do all this work with animals, and I could hardly go down to the sick bay area, so I had to get driven down to check the animals. So it was very tough. I couldn't drive, I couldn't walk properly, and I was extremely fatigued. So that had gone on for 10 years, on and off, of these feelings of illness. What kept me going through it though was actually the animals. When the animal came in and an orphan would arrive, somehow I got this energy. Somehow I had this drive to, that animal is suffering more than me. You know, the animal there is, I need to take care of that animal. That's not the end of the story. The animals kept me going. What happened is I was on lots of different chronic medications from the doctors. No doctor could help, no doctor could cure you from the condition. And it wasn't until I watched a speech. After basically, I never gave up on anything. But after watching a speech called Gary Yourofsky, Best Speech You'll Ever Hear, it actually inspired myself and Dave to go vegan, and we went vegan the very next day after hearing this speech about animal cruelty and how even being vegetarian I was still contributing towards animal cruelty. So that inspired us to go vegan. But then 6 months later my health improved dramatically. 6 months. 6 months, and I came off every medication that I'd been on for 10 years. I came off all severe painkillers. I had energy. We got to a point I could drive again, I could do my work, I could work on the Vervet Forest project, which is something we're working towards, and I could look after the animals is what I intended to do. So actually by eating 100% plant-based diet without knowing it was going to help me, because of my love for animals, then I actually recovered myself fully. I can now run, I can now cycle, I can walk fine, and I'm completely recovered, and now we can work on the Vervet Forest project, which we always set out to do. So if any of you are thinking that a vegan diet, you know, just for a bunch of hippies or whatever, you know, I did it, and it actually brought me many, many rewards as well, and now I can actually live my dreams with animals as well. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. So thank you for everyone for sharing your stories. They actually made me brought a tear to my eyes as well, because we know all the volunteers individually, and when they come by, you know, it's like making friends and family at our place. So if any of you are interested in volunteering, we do have an information stand where you can speak to us at the event. Please enjoy it. We do have things like Adopt a Troop at the information stand as well. We've got the silent auction going on, the bands, the cakes, eat lots, drink lots, and you know, have a good time. It's all for the animals. Tobias is speaking at 5 o'clock, so please also go into the main hall there. It's going to be an awesome presentation. So that's at 5 o'clock today. Okay, thank you.